So I just wanted to do a quick review of this fidget spinner I've been playing with. I don't actually know the real name of this. I don't even know if there is a real name, but I bought it as the Exsport, E-X-S-P-O-R-T. It's clearly a knockoff of something called the CKF, so Custom Knife Factory Pepyakka. I think it's a knockoff of the 2.0 version of that spinner. Anyway, so it's a heavyweight tri-spinner made of aluminum with these nice big bearing caps. It sells for between $15 and $19 on Prime, and I believe all the sellers are selling the same unit. I haven't purchased that many of them, but they all seem to be identical. And it kind of has that robotic, high-tech look to it. If you were to look at the Pepyakka, you could see they use different materials for each of these different little features on there. But in this version, it's really just the, I believe it's coated aluminum with stainless steel buttons. So I think people tend to buy this spinner because it has a sort of high-tech look. Looks like some sort of, you know, something a transformer would use, or maybe a part of a transformer, who knows. But actually they tend to get fairly good reviews on Amazon for the Prime versions, and there's maybe 5 or 6 sellers that I've identified. It seems like people like the design, not really to my liking, but whatever. And then it uses a sealed bearing, so you can see it's really quiet, and it's almost no sound on the desk. So I don't think the sealed bearing will be very good for spin time, but this thing is quite heavy. I actually forgot to weigh it, so I'll put the weight in the comments. Again, so it uses, these things are really light on details, but I know it's a hybrid ceramic bearing, stainless steel caps, and an aluminum body. Overall weight is maybe, I don't know, ballpark like 50, maybe like call it like 65 grams, around there. And again, check the comments to see how accurate that is. The caps are really big, so even though they are a pretty nice stainless steel, this is not going to be interchangeable with most of your other 608 caps, just because they are such a wide diameter. And the cap goes out and around the collar, creating obviously not a true seal, but one of the reasons it's so quiet is because the cap goes around this collar, and it sort of really dampens any noise created there. And there it is. You can see the bearing still has the shield on it. It's a 608 size bearing, and let's see if I can get the collar out. Yeah. So I believe it's a 608 bearing, but it looks a little small. Maybe it's a 606. But the bearing barely spins when I go like this. In fact, it doesn't really spin at all. Oh, there you go, a little bit. But it does not spin much because it still has those shields in place. The flip side of that is it makes it nice and quiet. And from the other spinners we used, we know that this design where it's fixed on one side with the collar on the other side is actually, it works really nicely because it lets you easily replace the bearing. These collars tend not to loosen on their own, and it gives you a very secure housing for the bearing. So the chance of this thing loosening up over time, or the buttons rubbing on the housing of the spinner is very minimal. So as for my thoughts, I would say that for $15, this thing's actually not that bad of a deal, but I'm not a big fan of this spinner. So just a feedback on my part, I would say, like, first, like, aesthetically, I just, like, does not appeal to me. You know, if it's to your liking, awesome. This is not for me. It's like way too high-tech looking. I like a clean metal look. On the size side, I actually think it's a pretty good size. Here's a standard SpinTech spinner. So this size puts it at a nice pocketable size, maybe a little bit on the big side. Here's a Vorso, which is like kind of more of my ideal size, but again, that's just me. This is totally reasonable size to put in a pocket. I like how quiet it is, but actually tend to like my spinners with a little bit of audio. Maybe this is a bit loud, which doesn't have the caps on, but yeah. As for the comfort of this, I would say this is quite low on the comfort level. These notches right here tend to be where I put my finger. So when I push, it just like aggravates your finger, which is rubbing against these corners. And they're not sharp. This thing has no sharp corners at all, but just inevitably, this thing's hefty, right? So you have to give it a good push with your finger, which means your knuckle here is just rubbing against these corners over and over again. If you get good at it, you'll be able to move your finger from the corner down to here, and it will decrease on the amount of you know, wear and tear on your finger, but you're never going to have a nice smooth area like this where you can just flick it over and over again. But if you're less into serious flicking or fidgeting and you just kind of like give this thing a spin and hold on to it, then I could see this one being something like really appealing. You know, you put it in your hand, you give it a spin, and you should easily get a 2-minute spin out of this thing. I will do a full-time video. I have less experience with these shielded bearings, just because I haven't picked up too many fidget spinners that use them. So yeah, for $15, I would say this thing's really not that bad, and that's $15 with Prime shipping. So you could have this thing in, you know, to you in 2 days, which is pretty solid. I haven't really investigated other spinners, like other resellers like Amazon and all, but I'm guessing it's there as well. I would say the biggest thing with this is trying to figure out what the name of it is and how you even find it. I'll put some links below, and I know people have requested this spinner to get reviewed multiple times, which is why I went ahead and picked one up. But yeah, so definitely not my personal preference. I think it has some design issues, but for the right person, I think this might be a pretty good pickup. You know, you can't really go too wrong for $15. So please leave any questions or comments below, and please check back for the spin time video. Thanks for watching.